Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review, and today I'm going to be on topic for this video. I'm going to be discussing the classic 1967 Mike Nichols film, The Graduate. And we'll move from there. And of course, this is the tagline. In case you can't read it, the movie that became a legend. Well, of course, this is the movie that made Dustin Hoffman a star, and he looks so young in this thing. And thin. He was 30 years old when he did this movie. Well, he also stars Anne Bancroft, Anthony Daniels, and Murray Hamilton. You might recognize him from the Jaws movies. The first two Jaws movies. Because The Graduate, in case those of you who've been brain dead for the last almost 50 years, The Graduate stars actually Dustin Hoffman as the graduate. He just graduated from college. He won all these awards and athletic awards for college. He was high average and made the honor roll and won several awards. And on his night back, this past home party, a welcome home party, and one of the guests of this party was Mrs. Robinson, the infamous Mrs. Robinson, the late great Anne Bancroft. And she actually came to drive me home. My husband left early, and I have no ride home. Can you give me a ride? He said, yeah, sure. So he drives her home. And then she starts seducing him, and that's when he had the famous line with the shot between her legs. Well, it's not in the video. And of course, the comment says, Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. And of course, later on in the scene in the bedroom where she starts taking off her dress, and Henry is a little nervous because he's in a bedroom of a married woman and says, hey, what if your husband catches us? And your husband will kill me and all this stuff. And she didn't care if she got caught or not. But Dr. Hoffman was worried about it. He makes the scene, terrific. Because apparently this character has been in that situation before. And of course, if you being seduced by a woman who looked like Anne Bancroft, I mean, come on. And so what I did was that you did see, it was like really one of the first movie that actually showed a little nudity in it. But it was only like a quick, because it was still 1967, so you still have to worry about there wasn't really that much of a rating system in those days. Like you have now. I'm sure The Graduate was made today in 2014. We'll probably get like a PG, maybe a PG-13, or possibly even an R rating, maybe. Because you do see Anne Bancroft a lot in this film, and wearing a bra and a slip, especially in the scene when she first started to seduce him. And then later on in the movie where we're still in Mrs. Robinson's house, where you see flashes of nudity, bruises, and so everybody sees what I thought I saw. There's one particular scene where Anne Bancroft is falling naked, but you only see implied nudity, where her is strategically placed things that will block the viewer's view of Anne Bancroft's body, so you don't really see anything. But once in a while, Mike Nichols on the end will flash a boob, once in a while flash something else for like 2 seconds, just enough for you to catch your attention and really see what I thought you saw, and to get away from the senses. And of course, after she goes on and says, hey, when we meet, like, if you don't want to sleep with me now, we can sleep together another time. Whenever you want to. So he thought about it like a couple of days later, said, oh, when we meet at this hotel, and he, of course, he made up a different name. And the guy who wrote the story, Buck Henry, who was about act, plays like the hotel desk clerk. And he says to Dustin Hoffman, are you here for an affair, sir? You know, they're going to apply thing. Because they were having a party in the hotel. Excuse me, there's like a motorcycle outside. Are you here for an affair? And of course, they were having a party in the hotel ballroom. So he goes in there, BS a little bit, walks out. And of course, he had a famous scene in the hotel room where Mrs. Robinson takes her blouse off. She's there wearing just a bra and she's still wearing a skirt. And Dustin Hoffman has his hand on her boob. And she doesn't react to that. She's trying to get like a clean spot off her shirt. And that particular scene, a little bit of trivia, in that particular scene, where Dustin Hoffman walks to the corner and just banging his head against the wall, he was actually the audio wasn't picking him up, but he was laughing hysterically because he has his hand on her boob and she doesn't react to it. But it was absolutely hysterical, and of course you find out that scene that was supposed to be Dustin Hoffman's first time. Of course, you don't actually see the love. You do see him in bed. You do see lying in bed, kissing, making out. But you don't actually see a full-blown sex scene. Because it's still, like I said, 1967 was more of applied sex scenes. And so, but every few nights, and for a few weeks, they've been fooling around with Mrs. Robinson in the hotel room. And then, of course, he meets, gets together with Mrs. Robinson's daughter, Elaine, played by, I forgot who plays the daughter. Excuse me for 1 minute. Catherine Ross plays Elaine Robinson, the daughter. And of course, at first he didn't go well with her. And Mrs. Robinson says, I don't want you ever to take that girl out. You know, for some reason, because she didn't like her for some reason. Well, Mrs. Robinson didn't like her. And that's because she was an illegitimate child. Because when they were not married, Mrs. Robinson flew around with Mr. Robinson in a car, ended up getting pregnant, and of course, produced Elaine. So I guess for that reason, she resented the kid or whatever it was. And then want Dustin Hoffman go out dating her daughter. And that's when you have the scene that's on the cover that's part of that scene. You say, oh, I'm not good enough for your daughter, but I'm good enough for you, right? And that's when you have the big blow up, and that's supposedly Anne Bancroft's leg, you know, in this picture that's on the cover. So I said, I'm good enough for you, but I'm not good enough for your daughter, right? And of course, then he does take her out, and ends up falling in love with Elaine. And eventually tells her what happened. And then, of course, he follows her to Berkeley. On the second half of the movie, Dustin Hoffman follows Elaine to Berkeley. Ironically, Berkeley. If you know what I mean, if you know anything about the 1960s, you know what I'm talking about. There's another issue for another day. And he says, I want to take you out. And then he finds out that she has another boyfriend on the side. And a snobbish guy. And then, of course, they wanted in the rooming house because he rented a room from Mr. Roper. Or the guy, Norman Fell, who played Mr. Roper in the Three's Company television series. Says, oh, I want to take you out. And of course, then she came into his room and says, I want you to know why you raped my mother. He goes, what? Where's this rape thing coming from? He says, oh, because she was in the hotel bar, and then you waited for her in the parking lot, and then you raped her. And of course, then she was a made up lie. And of course, then eventually, Dustin Hoffman does tell Elaine that he was having an affair with her mother. And of course, later on, her husband, Mr. Robinson, confronted him in the dorm room and said, "Look, I want you to know why you did it." And he explains to and him handed Ray why. And then he also explains to Elaine what had happened. And then she, for some reason, all of a sudden she believes Dustin Hoffman's character. And then trying to convince her to get married. And said, "No, I promised to marry this other guy." And what happened was Mrs. Robinson rushed the ring so that she could not be with Dustin Hoffman. And of course, then you had the famous scene where he crashes the ring. And as soon as they get married, said, "I do." Then you have been overlooking them inside the church. And he's banging on the windows, "Elaine, Elaine." And when everybody starts cussing him out, and then of course Elaine screams out, "Ben!" He says, "Doesn't happen," and they ran out of the church and went off together, and they went on to a bus, and that's how the movie ends. But in terms of the movie is the classic comedy at that time. And of course, one thing that really sells, the movie is, of course, the soundtrack by Simon and Garfunkel. And I think that the soundtrack they made throughout the film was what really sold the movie. Made the movie even more special than it was at that time, and they made Simon and Garfunkel international music stars after that. But as a movie, the movie is pretty good sex romantic comedy, at the time. Because at that time, you didn't really have all that many sex comedies in the 60s. Of course, throughout the 70s, of course, in the 80s, up to now, you had sex comedies, but that was really the first really successful sex comedy. At least I think it was. But as a movie itself, I think it's, it is a classic on so many levels. You have a lot of lines. Like what I mentioned before, Mrs. Robinson trying to seduce me. And of course, you're here for the theater. I think a couple of those lines made it into at least the seducing line, made it to the AFI Top 100 movie lines. Because the line became such a classic, and the other line was plastics. Because during the welcome home party with Dustin Hoffman, one of the neighbors came by, put his arm around him, and said, "I want to give you one piece of advice. Just one word I want to say to you." I said, "Oh, what's that?" He goes, "Plastics." And at that time they got a big laugh, and then all of a sudden I said, "Huh?" I said, "Well, the advice that he gives to Dustin Hoffman is plastics." But at that time it was a funny line. Now you go like, "Huh?" He should say like computers or the internet or something like that, like today. But at that time it was plastics. But as the movie itself, it is only an hour and 45-minute movie. But it is a classic, and it's almost like a big twist. How it's mostly a movie affair between Dustin Hoffman and Mrs. Robinson, and all of a sudden becomes a love story between Dustin Hoffman and Elaine Robinson, or Catherine Ross. As a matter of fact, this movie was nominated for for 7 Academy Awards, including National Quest Best Picture, and it did get the Oscar for Best Director for Mike Nichols. But the movie lost the Best Picture to In the Heat of the Night, which I previously did a review on during my Oscar movie Best Picture series that I did. And also Dustin Hoffman was nominated for Best Actor, but he lost to Rod Steiger for Heat of the Night. But I don't know if For Dustin Hoffman and Catherine Ross won Golden Globes for the newcomers. Meg Bancroft won for best for comedy most best motion picture actress. The movie itself won for best music comedy in the Golden Globes. And the most promising newcomer for Catherine Ross and for Dustin Hoffman. And like I said, this movie made Dustin Hoffman's career. It also made reinvigorated Anne Bancroft's career a lot. But she also got a bunch of movie roles after that. So, but unfortunately, she recently died a couple years ago, which is a shame. This was also this movie and I think also The Miracle Worker, the two movies that Anne Bancroft was known for. Who had been married to Blake Edwards. Not Blake Edwards. Mel Brooks. That's what it was. But Anne Bancroft was most famous for being married to Mel Brooks. That's my review of The Graduate. Please click on the video. Please like it and please feel free to comment on it and please share it on your Facebook